And we're underway.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Ice Time in the Barn podcast on the Hockey Sports Network. I'm your host, Ted Boggs. This week, we will cover the results from last week's games, the current standings, and discuss upcoming games this week, and finally, the Stick and Puck Spotlight. For the upcoming games, we will review the stats and potential impacts to the standings as we enter the last 2 weeks of the spring season. On the Stick and Puck Spotlight, we are featuring Shark Blues' own Tyler Smitty Smith. All right, let's get started. This week we saw a lot of close games and only had one shutout. The only shutout was the first game we covered, and that was Bloomingdale Ice Bulls versus Panthers Gold, which they shut them out 3-0. That game was very interesting because Panthers Gold had only 5 skaters, so to only come out down 3-0, that was pretty impressive. Kelly's Heroes edged out Panthers Black 4-3. Top Shelf Hockey came back and outlasted Cabbage Criminals 5-3. Tampa Catholic tied with Villigran Vikings 1-1. And finally, Riverview Blue 7, Riverview Gray 7. So it was both Sharks team, the blue and the gray. And what a fun game that was. More to come on that a little bit later. So let's jump into the standings. Coming into games last Friday, we expected to be implications in the top 5, and we were not disappointed. Sharks Blue, who is tied with Sharks Gray in the last week's game, is first place, but only ahead of Kelly's Heroes by 3 points. Kelly's Heroes currently at 15 points, took down Plant Black in a close game to keep the pace with the league-leading Sharks Blue. Top Shelf with 14 points are on their heels and are looking to take out Bloomingdale Ice Bulls this week to keep pace with Kelly's Heroes. If Kelly's Heroes wants to reign in second place, they must take down the Panthers Gold, and if the Vikings want to retain a stronghold on fourth and be within striking distance of Top Shelf, they need to beat Panthers Black. It will be interesting to see how the games this week set up the final weekend ahead. Now let's round out the top 10. In 5th place are the Ice Bulls with 10 points. Next up is Panthers Black in 6th place with 9 points. Cabbage Criminals in 7th with 8 points. 8th place is Panthers Gold with 6 points. 9th place is Tampa Catholic with 5 points. And rounding out standings in 10th place is Sharks Gray. Now let's dive into the games covered last week on the Hockey Sports Network. The first game up featured the Bloomingdale Ice Bulls and the Panthers Gold, which we called out that Bloomingdale pulled that one out 3-0. The Panthers were not set up for success in this one as they only had 5 skaters, which put them at a disadvantage right from the start. The offense for the Panthers could not get going quickly and fell behind thanks to a breakaway goal by Ryan Compton.
To get it out of the zone, cannot. Stolen by Compton away from Pizzo. Compton's on a breakaway, and Compton scores!
From that point, it was all Ice Bulls, but then a really great thing happened. The Ice Bulls sent 3 of their top players over to help Panthers Gold. Even though Panthers Gold was shut out, it was really a great gesture by the Ice Bulls, which gave very tired skaters a little breather. Next up was Cabbage Criminals versus Top Shelf. We expected this game to be close, and indeed it was. The defense for both teams stood out in this one. Before we get into the scoring, let's take a look at the defense. First up, it's Cabbage Criminals putting a stop on an attack by Top Shelf.
Dussel tries to deke around, cut off by mystery player number 2. Behind the net, 10:54 to go.
Top Shelf defense worked to slow the backhand shot by Cazo, which was stopped by goalie Merrick Phelps, who then dumped it out to Ben Edlin.
Certainly didn't expect any technical difficulties on that one. Backhand caught.
There was no scoring until about 7:19 to go in the first period when Carl Hilderman took the puck on a breakaway and scored on the right side.
And taken away by Top Shelf, shorthanded. Around
30 seconds later, Taylor Dominique dekes through 2 Top Shelf defenders and shoots at the top of the red circle, burying the puck to tie it all up at 1 apiece.
Dominique comes out with it. Shot on goal.
The first period ended with a 1-1 tie. Then early in the second period, mystery player number 2 dekes around and through 3 Top Shelf players and goes 5-hole to give the Cabbage Criminals the lead.
I think that was Maximus. Mr. Player bring it to the net. Shot.
The game went back and forth until the third period where Top Shelf took the lead for good with 3:52 to go in the third period due to a goal by Mark Wilson.
Top Shelf. Hildebrand has it behind the net. Gets it out front. Picked up by Helms. Helms tries to push it down. And that goes in! It gets past!
Top Shelf will go on to win this one 5-3 and put a stronghold on second place and is within striking distance of Kelly's Heroes. The final game was a fun one due to Sharks Gray and Sharks Blue swapping players. It was also fun for this announcer to figure out who they were. Let's check in to see how it was handled by the announcer.
Bottom line is they switched jerseys instead of flipping them inside and out. So some of the players actually have their real jerseys on. Other players do not have their real jerseys on. So I'm just going to call numbers, and we'll let it go like that.
As noted before, this was a fun and exciting game, and I highly recommend going back and watching. It did end at a tie, but not for last-ditch effort by Nick McCree on a breakaway and putting it in past Jerry Wilkerson.
And goes out ahead. Stahlbaum and McCree gives it to McCree. McCree.
Positions 1 through 4 remain up for grabs, and positions 2 through 4 may look very different through the next couple weeks. The good news is the coverage of those games will be right here on the Hockey Sports Network, so make sure you tune in to see all the best in high school hockey. And what a segue into covering the key matchups this week to be broadcasted by the Hockey Sports Network. There are 5 games on tap every week. This week, there will be 2 games broadcasted. Also, if you know anyone who would like to be a part of the broadcasting action, please reach out to me, tgboggs, B-O-G-G-S, at gmail.com, or stop by the broadcast booth at the games this Friday night. So the games this week are 7:15. It's going to be Top Shelf versus the Ice Bulls. 8:15, Tampa Catholic versus Sharks Gray. 8:30, Kelly's Heroes versus Panthers Gold. 9:30, Panthers Black versus Villa Grand Vikings. And 9:45, Sharks Blue and Cabbage Criminals. As noted before, when tonight finishes, the top 14 positions may look very different. The games covered this week are, the 8:15 is going to be Tampa Catholic and Sharks Gray.
And the 9:30 game is going to be Panthers Black and Villa Grand Vikings.
So let's take a look at Friday night's matchups. So that first game, Tampa Catholic's in 9th place with a record of 1 win, 6 losses, and 3 ties. And they have 5 points, where Sharks Gray has a record of 1 win, 8 losses, and 1 tie, and are in last place. Interestingly, Sharks Gray only win of the season came against Tampa Catholic way back in Week 2, 5-3. Tampa Catholic offense has scored 22 goals over 10 games, averaging 2.2 goals per game. Leading the way for Tampa Catholic in scoring with 7 points is Jack Angel, with 4 goals and 3 assists, and right there with him is Zachary Shankman with 7 points, 6 goals, and 1 assist. Their scoring ability when they are on the ice together is tough to slow down. Sharks Gray is going to have their hands full this week with those two. The netminders are Alex Marchese, Jacob Fish, and Connor Johnson. Overall, they have given up 48 goals and have a combined 4.8 goals against average over 10 games, and have a combined record of 1 win, 6 losses, and 3 ties. On the other side of the bench, Sharks Gray offense has scored 26 goals over 10 games, averaging 2.6 goals per game. Leading the way for Sharks Gray in scoring is Keon Vera with 12 points, 12 goals, and 0 assists. The netminders for Sharks Gray include Jerry Wilkerson, Nolan Sloan, and TJ Crayer. They've given up a total of 75 goals with a 7.5 goals against average, with an overall record of 1 win, 8 losses, and 1 tie. The final game of the night features Panthers Black and Villa Grand Vikings. Even though Panthers Black are not in the running, they are still a tough team. The Vikings are going to have their hands full, but are in a must-win situation. They are out of second place, Kelly's Heroes, by 3 points, and 2 back of Top Shelf. So let's get into some stats. Panthers Black offense has scored 52 goals over 10 games, averaging 5.2 goals per game. Leading the way for Panthers Black in scoring is Evan Kuznetsov with 20 points, 16 goals, and 4 assists. If the Vikings have a chance to win this one, they must figure out a way to stop Evan and the Panthers' attack. The netminders for Panthers Black are Zachary Carl and Justin Fry. Together, they've given up 52 goals, averaging 5.2 goals against per game, with an overall record of 3 wins, 4 losses, and 3 ties. On the other side, Villa Grand Vikings offense has scored 33 goals over 10 games, averaging 3.3 goals per game. Leading the way for Villa Grand Vikings in scoring are Jay Rivera with 14 points, 9 goals, and 5 assists, and Jacob Santarlis with 14 points, 5 goals, and 9 assists. With that combination on the ice, it would wreak havoc for the Panthers all night. The netminders Logan Shave. Logan has given up 22 goals, averaging 2.2 goals against per game, with an overall record of 5 wins, 3 losses, and 2 ties. This game should definitely be a great one. This week and next week should really be great when it comes down to the top 4. And just a reminder, the first game coverage tomorrow night will begin at 8:15, with a pregame starting at 8:05. Our next feature is interview with Sharks Blue, Tyler Smitty Smith. Take it away, guys.
Now, let's get into our spotlight featuring Tyler Smitty Smith of Riverview Sharks Blue. Currently has 14 points, 5 goals, and 9 assists. So, Tyler, thanks for joining us on the Hockey Sports Network. All right, so with that, I just have a few easy questions for you, all right? So first question to you is, What moment did you realize you wanted to play hockey, and how long have you been playing?
I've been playing for most of my life. I wanted to play hockey ever since I could remember.
I understand you also referee hockey. Can you share your thoughts on how that has shaped your view of the game?
Definitely. They get yelled at a lot. It is not fun for them.
So I guess you've experienced that quite a few times.
Not that much. A few instances, but not many. And not that bad either.
So I understand you've also played some travel hockey as well. Can you share a little bit about that experience and how it's impacted your play today?
It was definitely good to get out there and play against more competition, but high school has definitely been my favorite so far.
Well, last year, as I understand it, was your first year playing for the Sharks. Can you share a little about about what you learned last year and how it's influenced your play this year?
I learned a lot. My shot has gotten better from last year. Just knowing where to be and just how the team plays.
So looking in the future, what goals have you set for yourself, whether it be this fall, next season, or post-high school?
I definitely set the goal to just work as hard as possible. Just try to help my team out, get as many assists as possible.
I have to ask this question. What team is your favorite NHL team?
Lightning.
Finally, who's someone that inspired you in life?
Taught me out a lot and led by example. And he's just nice to everyone.
And he was a former teammate of yours last year as well, is that correct?
Yes. I got the great chance of playing with him for a few games. It was great.
Well, that is so awesome to hear. Smitty, thank you so much for joining us here on the Stick and Puck Spotlight on the Hockey Sports Network.
Don't miss our new Stick and Puck segment. Please make sure to join us tomorrow night for a high school hockey night in Tampa at the TGH Iceplex in Brandon, Florida, the official training facility of the Tampa Bay Lightning. We'd also like to thank the Iceplex for letting us bring these games to you every Friday night. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any suggestions to make the live broadcast better or this podcast better, please comment and let us know your ideas. That wraps it up from here. See you at the next high school hockey night in Tampa. This is Ted Boggs for the Hockey Sports Network.